You are ambitious but lazy. That's what they called you, right? Like your goals, dreams, and aspirations are way too much for your current work ethic. So they tell you to use a 2-minute timer, tell you to fight inertia, but they never told you one thing. Your laziness isn't a personality flaw. It's not something that's hardwired in your DNA. Nobody comes out of the womb thinking, hey, I'm going to chill out my whole life. It's not a label either that others impose on you after seeing you stagnant. No, your laziness is a symptom of life with no direction, no purpose, and no meaning. You've been told to treat the symptom, your lack of action. But I'm going to show you what happens when you fix your vision. Just think about this. Your laziness isn't who you are as a person. It's who you've become through your misaligned beliefs, habits, and internal chaos. You've spent years blaming yourself. I'm lazy. I just need to work harder. Or even worse, maybe I'm not cut out for this, so you try harder. You do what the internet tells you. Just beat inertia. Set a 2-minute timer, start and move, and maybe it works for a few days or a week, until you crash and burn out. You have goals written in your notebook, but you're lying in your bed scrolling. You tell yourself, I'll start tomorrow. Then do it again. And again. Not because you don't care, it's because none of it feels real anymore. That's the internal chaos forming inside. What you want and what you do don't align. That's not laziness, that's cognitive dissonance. Your brain is stuck in a loop, pulled between the person you could be and the habits you keep repeating. Your actions don't match the person you want to become. Not because you're only too lazy to make it happen, but because part of you doesn't believe you can have it. Every time your beliefs and actions don't match, you reinforce the lie, maybe I can't do this. Your identity wants growth, but your behavior says, stay safe. It's the disconnect, the inner conflict between who you believe you are and what you do. That's your brain fighting itself and protecting you from uncertainty. So what happens? You try hacks, you force momentum, timers, procrastination techniques, but it never lasts because none of it fixes the real issue. Your actions don't align with your identity. And the more ambitious you are, the heavier it feels. Not because you are too weak, because the more pressure you feel, but you're terrified of how much work and effort it'll take. You hesitate and delay. You protect yourself from the weight of your ambition. And over time, the gap doesn't just create dissonance. It distorts who you are. When you act out of alignment long enough, your brain starts rewiring your beliefs to match the behavior. You stop saying, I'm ambitious, and start saying, maybe I'm not actually built for more. And when it hits you, you don't even know who you are anymore. You want to believe you're ambitious. That's why you set goals and dream bigger. But when you look at how you show up, slipping and avoiding your actions betray those beliefs. So what really happens? You stop trusting yourself, not just in your ability to succeed, but in your right to claim that you're ambitious in the first place. You are not the person you want to be, but not sure who you are anymore. That's the identity confusion. Think of your identity like GPS. It's the mental blueprint that guides your choices and behavior. The internal compass that tells you, let's go there, I have great goals, that's your ambition. That's who you believe you could be. But your habits, your day-to-day behaviors, they're not following GPS, they're following misaligned settings, based on self-doubt, fear, and low standards you picked up somewhere along the way. So even though your ambitious identity whispers, let's build, your actions respond. Better stay here. That disconnect, that's the friction you feel every day. That's why you procrastinate. Why you feel lazy, not because you're a lazy person, but because your internal GPS is pointing somewhere your behavior refuses to follow. And this is where most people get it wrong. They tell you to fight inertia, to set a timer. But here's the truth. You can't fix misalignment with a 2-minute hack. You can't force your way through an identity crisis. Because take someone who is an object at rest, stuck in the same place, who is still and not moving forward, and tell them just take action and move. That's like throwing them car keys and saying, drive. But if you don't know where you're going, you'll either keep turning back or get lost. Stop moving blindly. Start aligning this. You don't need more motivation or motion. You need clarity. You need to get all parts of you pointing in the same direction. Because once you're clear on what you want, your actions don't need to be forced. You don't need to set the 2-minute timer every time you act or prepare like you are going on a war with inertia. You don't need another productivity tool. You need to become the person who doesn't stay object at rest. And when identity locks in, action becomes automatic. So let's be clear. You're not lazy. You're out of alignment. And it's time to get back in tune with who the you are meant to be. Step 1. Get clear of what you want. You think you lack motivation to keep you moving forward. You don't. What you really lack is clarity. You say you have ambitious goals. But if I stopped you right now and asked, What does success actually look like for you? Could you really answer? Could you tell me what you want to build? Why it matters to you? What it's going to look like in real life, not just in your dreams? Most people can't answer that. And that's the real reason they stay stuck. Because your brain doesn't chase unspecific ideas. It chases clear outcomes. You wake up with ambition. Fine. But when it's time to act, you hesitate and self-sabotage. Not because you're lazy, but because your brain doesn't move toward blurry destinations. And here's the brutal truth. If you don't know where you're going, why would you even start? So stop saying, I just want to be successful. I have ambition and great goals. That's just wishful thinking, not a vision. Get specific. What do you want? What are you building? What kind of life are you creating? And why do you want it? Because once your brain has a target, action becomes like a second nature. You don't need to force it. You need a reason what you really want is real. Your brain is wired for efficiency. If your goals are vague, I want success, I want freedom, your mind treats them like a background noise. It doesn't act upon it. It doesn't prioritize. So instead of taking action, it protects energy. Think of this in terms of energy conservation, rather than real laziness. But it's not weakness. It's your brain doing what it's wired to do. Conserve effort when the path is unspecific. Research proves it too. When people lack clear goals, their motivation doesn't switch on. Not because they don't care, but because the brain literally doesn't know what to work for. Why? Because clarity creates urgency. When your brain knows exactly where it's going, it stops questioning, it stops doubting, it moves in the right direction, and it hits deeper than any brake inertia hack could ever do. And when that clicks, action becomes automatic. And that's when you finally start moving the right way. Step 2, identify internal resistance. You've got the ambition, you've even got the clarity now, but you still hesitate. Why? Because there's chaos happening behind the scenes. Not outside you, inside you. It's fear and doubts. Fear is what creates internal resistance. Fear of failure. Fear of looking stupid. Fear of realizing that maybe you're not who you thought you were. These are the invisible forces behind procrastination. And unless you face them all, you'll sabotage alignment, even if you know what you want. So you still scroll and hesitate and delay for later. Not because you're unsure, but because part of you is scared that version of you that is ambitious might actually work. And then what? Who do you have to become? What will happen if you are already successful or accomplish your goals? Would you feel happy and safe? These aren't some random fears, these are identity-level fears. And unless you face them, you'll keep sabotaging your own potential, and your laziness will keep coming back. Not as a weakness, but as a shield, protecting you from the fears you don't want to admit. I've been there myself too, sabotaging the ambitious version of myself I wanted to become. You need to realize that your brain is wired for survival. It doesn't care about your ambitious goals or aspirations. It cares about keeping you safe. And safety, that means avoiding risk, avoiding discomfort, avoiding anything that would make you become the person you want to become. This is why fear drives avoidance, preventing you from taking action. Ask your ambitious self, what are you really afraid of? What's actually holding you back? Is it failure? Is it judgment? Is it the fear that even if you try, you still won't be enough? Be honest with yourself. The truth will set you free. It reveals what's really holding you back. And once you see it, once you stop lying to yourself, everything changes. Because fear only controls you, as long as you refuse to face this. But when you confront it head on, it loses its power. And that's when you finally start moving. Step 3, change your identity. You keep believing your own lies, calling yourself lazy. And guess what? You keep acting that way. Why? Because if you believe you are lazy, you keep proving to yourself you really are. Because your brain doesn't act on your ambitious goals. It acts on who you think you are. If you believe you're someone who takes action, you'll start proving that instead. It's not about implementing procrastination techniques. It's about rewiring your whole identity so you stop fighting yourself every day. You need to stop saying, I'm lazy, and start saying, I am someone that moves forward and take action in the right direction. It doesn't mean you will become that one overnight. It means reinforcing a new identity through consistent actions like showing up for yourself and keeping your promise. Because when your identity and actions match, everything changes. You don't need to force yourself to act. You stop wrestling with inertia. You stop needing hacks and motivation. You expect yourself to act because that's who you are now. And your new identity drives your behavior. Studies show that successful people act in alignment with who they believe they are. When you build a new identity of someone who takes care of their health, you don't need reminders to eat clean. You don't force it. You just do it. Because it's who you are now. If this advice resonates with you, go watch my other video on top 5 choices that will determine where you are in 5 years from now. Because once your identity aligns with your actions, the only question left is, will you make the right choices that match the future you say you want? Everything that comes next is a choice, and the wrong ones, they'll cost you years, confidence, and the version of yourself you might never meet again. If you are serious about rewiring who you are and become the next Healthy Mind CEO, let me know in the comments which one resonates with you the most. Subscribe and see you in the next video.